What's going on, guys? It is your role model of the IWC Gamers Goon here today with your August 12th AEW Dynamite review. Now, we're going to start it off just like we started off last week. We're going to talk about the women's tag team tournament on Monday. Whew. We started the women's tag team tournament off with Big Swole and Little Swole, aka Nicole Savoy. And they were going up against Leva Bates and Rochelle Chanel or something like that. I don't care how you pronounce the name. She was not good. She was not good. In this match we had Big Swole kind of acting like the mentor of Lil Swole, and she had to stop Lil Swole from getting to the getting a little bit too upset at the beginning. She was wrestling with emotion rather than with her head. At one point in this match, we had Chanel just go through a little tirade of offensive moves. I don't think she fits in with this division. I really don't. I don't think we need to see much more of her. But the one thing I will say about this match is Nicole Savoy. Definitely, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm taking a good look at Nicole Savoy because I think she has a lot of potential. I think she could be very, very good within the women's division here in AEW. With that being said, it really didn't do much except showcase what Nicole Savoy could do. And Savoy and Swole ended up going over here, and they'll be going on to face, who is it? Hold on, I have it written down. They'll be facing the Nightmare Sisters next week. That's where I have my little problem. Because next we had Dasha Gonzalez with Rachel Ellering, somebody, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm also looking at. Rachel Ellering, very good, very technical women's wrestler. I think she has a lot of potential to be something great. And then they were going against Diamante and Ivelisse. I think we all know how much everybody wants to see Ivelisse and Diamante signed to AEW. They're both really good. They come from that Latina style. As you know, they could, or well, more specifically, Diamante could fit in with LAX because she was from the Latin American exchange, LAX over there, so she could come back and start teaming up with Ortiz. We could see that dynamic pulled out, but I really like seeing her and Ivelisse. I think those two work really well together. They've been friends. So I think keeping those two together is a good business decision. Not a fan of Dasha Gonzalez here. She was not up to par with everybody else in this match, really. I mean, she was good for being her first time in the ring, but she definitely has a long way to go if she wants to continue to be an in-ring role within AEW. But for now, I'd stick to commentating or interviewing because it was a rough experience. Definitely needs a lot more training. Very, very green. But in the end of it, we had the right team win. We had Ivelisse and Diamante go over. I would have rather seen them paired up so that Diamante and Ivelisse would face the Nightmare Sisters. And then Big Swole and Little Swole would go up against Team TJ because I think the money is in TJ versus Diamante and Ivelisse. I think that's the money match. I think that's the match people are going to want to see. People already love Team TJ, and I think a lot of people are starting to like Diamante and Ivelisse. I think a lot of people are wanting to start seeing them possibly get a contract within AEW. I think that could be a money match right there, and we're going to end up getting it. So that'll be very interesting. That we're going to get that. But like I said, I think that should have been the finals, but next week we're getting Nightmare Sisters versus Big Swole and Little Swole, and then we have Team TJ going against Diamante and Ivelisse. If I'm going to have to make a prediction, I would say that the Nightmare Sisters probably end up winning, and then they'll probably go on and face Ivelisse and Diamante, if I had to predict. Okay, now we start off with the actual show of AEW. I actually wanted to start this off with mentioning somebody that's prominent within the internet wrestling community. If you're over on Twitter, you probably know her, Jessica Davin. She was at AEW Dynamite. Now, she took the proper precaution. She got tested. had her temperature taken, social distance, wore a mask at all times. Exactly what you need to do if you are going to these type of shows. But she was able to go in. Obviously, we know her being a fan of AEW. So, I'm telling you right now, Vince is going to see that they let a few fans in. I mean, the thing about it was she was able to get the opportunity or whatever because of a non-wrestling related connection or whatever. Doesn't matter. Vince is going to look at this and he's going to be, I'm telling you right now, he's going to be like, you know what? We said we weren't going to have SummerSlam with nobody, but now we're going to have people there. I'm telling you right now, tonight he is 100% changing his mindset. Now, I don't know if we're actually going to get that or if it's just going to be an opinion that Vince ends up having and then it doesn't come to fruition. But trust me, Vince is sitting up in Titan Tower right now thinking, how am I going to get fans in? How can I get anybody in? I just need I need to have fans. I need to have the fans. I can't be beat. I can't be beat. They brought fans back before me. I can't be beat. Maybe I'm going to invite the Insider. Maybe I'm going to invite Ryan Satin to come sit in the crowd. Maybe I'm going to invite whomever it might be. But trust me, they're gonna start thinking about reintroducing the fact of fans bringing out SummerSlam. Another thing going into this show, we got to see the new TNT title. The TNT title now looks gorgeous. Has gold all over it. Every spot where it used to be silver now has gold on it and has the big TNT logo on it and gold. It's just a beautiful championship. Just really good. But let's get into the start of the show. We have the Young Bucks against the Dark Order. The Dark Order attack the Young Bucks prior to the match on their entrance. When the match starts, we have a series of dives from Matt Jackson onto the Dark Order. And then Stu ends up hitting a dive onto Matt. Then we have Nick Jackson in the ring with Evil Uno, and the Dark Order end up turning it into a 2-on-1. Stu Grayson comes in, it takes advantage there. Nick is able to fight out of the corner. He is able to flip over both Stu and Evil Uno as they were trying to pick up Nick. It was Nick. He was able to flip over both of them into a tag, which led towards the Bucks into a double team with the double clothesline onto Stu Grayson. Then they hit a backbreaker onto Evil Uno. Then we had Stu pick up the momentum once again, which led to Evil Uno being able to come back in and hit a leg drop onto Matt Jackson. Then we had the Dark Order just keeping up the focus on Matt Jackson. Uno here, he tries to use the wrist tape as kind of like a weapon. Then we have Rich Knox end up taking away the wrist tape from Evil Uno. And that leads to him tagging in Stu. Stu ends up hitting a dropkick onto Matt Jackson, which leads to the trade-off of chops between Evil Uno and then Matt. Then we have Matt once again fighting out of the corner. He gets dragged to the outside by Stu Grayson, and then he's surrounded by the Dark Order members. He slides back into the ring, hits a tag, try to hit a tag. Evil Uno stops him. Then we have Matt hitting a spear out of nowhere, allowing him to kind of get a chance to go for the tag. But this time it's Stu Grayson sliding on in, trying to stop it. But he ends up getting the tag. Nick Jackson comes on in, hits a flurry of offense. They isolate Evil Uno here in the ring. Nick tags in Matt, and they go for the double team, trip into the knees, leading into a double moonsault onto Evil Uno. Then we have Nick hanging Evil Uno up on the ropes, kind of like a Sasha Banks thing, where she's dangling on the ropes. Hung him up on the ropes. Evil Uno ends up taking the knee, or a moonsault from Matt Jackson, which led to a 2 count before Evil Uno got his foot on the rope. Then we have the Dark Order end up hitting a belly-to-belly with one of the Bucks onto the other Buck. And then they try to go into the yin-yang. Did not work. Dark Order then hits a brainbuster into a kick for a 2 count. And the other Buck comes in and breaks that up. Then we have the Dark Order. They drag out Matt Jackson. The little goons of the Dark Order drag out Matt Jackson to the tunnel. They stand in front of him. He's not getting back here. But Dark Order goes for a fatality and ends up getting a roll-up. Nick Jackson does for the sunset roll for the win. Stu could not break the count fast enough. So, a really solid match here between the Young Bucks and the Dark Order. The one thing I do have a problem with is the Dark Order needs to win. These guys, I'm telling you, these guys should have been the ones built to take the titles off Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. They should have been the ones built towards the tag team titles. Obviously, with what happened later in the evening, we know who will be on that collision course. But these two, Stu Grayson and Evil Uno, these two guys in the Dark Order, I think they're very underrated. I think they could be a really good tag team championship team. And I think that they should start picking up more wins. Obviously, they got the win last week, but they did not win when it did matter when it came to the tag team championship match they got 2 weeks back. And I think the Young Bucks, obviously, the Young Bucks, you can't hurt the Young Bucks sucks. They're the Young Bucks. A loss for the Young Bucks means absolutely nothing. I think the Dark Order should have won here. That's the only complaint I have to have with that match. Next we have MJF, kind of like a package of his walk to the ring, showing off the masks, the masks of, the Burberry scarves. Then we have Lee Johnson walking with him. He pushes Lee Johnson to the side saying, "Stop walking in my shot." And then we switch off into a, we got a lot of these all night. Tag team appreciation night, obviously. So they were interviewing Omega Page. They said, who is your favorite tag teams? Who's the best tag team? Kenny says, "I think it's the Young Bucks." Hangman says, "I was going to say us." So there you have that. Those are who they think is best. Then we have MJF come to the ring with his campaign team for the MJF address. Yes. He said he would like to tell people to use the hashtags MJF 2020 and Not My Champion. And he would like to show statistics. And then he yells at Nina for not being able to smile because Nina just doesn't smile when she's around MJF, apparently. He says, "I'm going to give Nina the floor." Nina gets the floor, shows the polls. MJF is beating Moxley by over 500%. He says his next topic might actually get him to be a little bit emotional. He says he mourns for the belief in the champion, Dictator John. He doesn't care because he isn't even there tonight. MJF says, "I'll always be there, and I promise that." Then he says, "I'll take responsibility for John's actions because John's afraid of change, and he's afraid of me." Then he goes on to say, which it's understandable because John isn't used to someone being more talented than him. MJF says that he cares about us and he wants to make sure that John's comfortable so that he can be here for us. MJF then lays down on the mat asking, "John, are you more comfortable now?" He says his campaign started because AEW deserves a quality leadership. John is not a leader. He is a dog chasing cars. John caught the title, but if he really cares about the fans, he'll hand the keys over to the real leader, MJF. He says John knows, John knows, and the fans know, and he knows that everybody deserves better. Then we have Moxley's music hit, and MJF starts sending out his campaign team. You have Wardlow out there. You have some guys. He starts sending them. Oh, he always comes down over there. Go, and then he's sending Wardlow over there. He's telling everybody to just block him off. John Moxley won't be able to get down to the ring. John Moxley pulls the quick one, comes out the entrance, attacks MJF from behind, ends up hitting a paradigm shift, and then throwing him into the podium. Then we have Moxley cut a promo afterwards. He says, "It isn't even September 5th yet. And when it is, I'm going to teach MJF a lesson in humility. And that will be a very bitter pill to swallow." The stuff with John Moxley and MJF is going to be good. It already is good. MJF, the best heel in all of pro wrestling today. Don't care what anybody has to say. MJF is the guy right now when it comes to being a heel. Moxley, one of the most legit champions we have in the world today. It's going to be a really good match. I can't wait for it. Next, we have a Matt Hardy interview. They say Matt Hardy isn't able to return for another 10 days. Matt says, "I'm alive, but I don't die." and next time all I will see is red. I'll only see red until Sammy bleeds the way Sammy made me bleed. He says he'll kick Sammy's ass in 10 days on the next Dynamite, which is a Saturday, by the way, because they had to change it because of the NBA, but it's going to be on a Saturday. Says he's going to wait for Sammy tonight. And then he ends up attacking a referee the referee's wearing the leather coat. He's wearing a backwards hat. Looks very Sammy Guevara-esque. Walking away from Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy attacks him. Very, very Sammy-like there. So Matt Hardy taking his anger out on an innocent bystander. Next, we have the match I think a lot of people were excited of going in here, and rightfully so. We had Scorpio Sky versus Cody. Scorpio Sky came in the interest in kicking down the door. Then we had Cody come on out. And he had everyone in the Nightmare Family with him, including Ali, which made me initially think, I was like, well, they're bringing out the entire Nightmare Family. That means that he's losing this thing tonight. Wasn't the case. Also, we had Mike Chioda referee this match, and he also refereed the main event of the night. So I think a lot of people popped to see Mike Chioda. If you don't know him, he was a longtime WWE referee, and he was unfortunately one of the people that got laid off during this pandemic era. But Mike Chioda is with AEW, at least for this show. I really hope they sign him, because it'll be a shame if Mike Chioda doesn't get a contract anywhere, man. Mike Chioda, he is one of, if not the best and the longest running referees outside of maybe an Earl Hebner. He is a legend in that in those stripes. He is a legend. Mike Chioda is one of the top guys. This match here, though, between Cody and Sky, we actually have Sky kind of starting off on the way that Cody normally does, kind of showing the disrespect. Throws Cody out of the ring, kind of leans down the ring rope so that Cody can get back in. Cody accepts it. Then Cody does the same thing, and Sky, not so much having it, does not get through it. That comes back from commercial, and then we have Cody hanging in the Tree of Woe. Sky ends up taking advantage of that, and then he targets the ribs and continues the attack on the ribs throughout the match. Throws him into the ring post, throws his ribs into the ring post. We had Sky just focusing on the ribs here. Sky ends up going for a TKO, which Cody converted into a crossroads for a 2 count. Then we have Cody go for a pile driver. Sky flips that into his own pile driver attempt, which Cody then gets out of and hits a crossbody on Sky. Sky then goes for the ropes for a off the rope stunner. He misses it. Cody then hits the crossroads on Sky, and Sky tried to kick out, but he couldn't kick out. He kind of like brought it up, but just didn't get it off the mat. It was a really good match. Like I said, I really do like what Cody's doing with it. I want to see this TNT title elevate some new stars. I want to see guys like Danhausen get in there. I just want to see a lot of indie personalities get on in there to have an opportunity to build a name for themselves. Whether it's Dan the Dad, whether it's perfect example we already had was Warhorse. Look at Warhorse. Everybody was talking about Warhorse for the night. Everybody wanted to see Warhorse. I would like to see a lot of these indie names get an opportunity to further their name value in the pro wrestling world. You really do like to see it, though. Hopefully when he does drop the title, I hope maybe even if the Scorpio Sky does end up eventually getting, maybe the TNT title is going to be a title that's going to have the open challenge with it. I don't know. I hope that's what the case is, but I really do like the open challenges. I like the platform it gives people. It's a really good thing that they have that there. Because let's be honest, Scorpio Sky, after losing to Jericho, he really didn't get much of a chance on the main show. A lot of that came through Dark, and then momentum built up, and then he ends up winning, and then he ends up coming out and challenging Cody. So I would like to see that kind of stuff happen more, where the TNT Championship is meant for another star to be made, and that's, I think, exactly what they do here with Scorpio Sky, because he had a really good match with Scorpio Sky. But after the match, we had Brody Lee come onto the screen. He says that his transgressions will not go unpunished and that Cody will put respect on his name. And he says that Cody will be gifted back the old belt. He's holding the silver belt. Cody's holding the gold belt. He said, I'll give you this back next week when I beat you for your belt. So they're going to trade belts next week. By the way, next week is on Saturday. It is not on Wednesday. I did want to point that out. I might point that out again if I forget that I already pointed it out. But next week, Saturday. So the review will be up Sunday. Tonight is an exception because I'm going to be busy tomorrow. But always post it after the day of Dynamite. So there we go. Then we had the private party interviewed. They're asked who their favorites are. And they both say the Hardy Boys, obviously the Hardy Boys are private party's favorite. I mean, just look at their style. It's very Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy-esque. Next, we have the Jurassic Express versus Kenny Omega and Adam Hangman Page for the tag team titles. The story starts early here. We have the busted nose of Kenny Omega, trying to tell that for a little bit. We have Luchasaurus keeping up the attack on Omega. And then him and Jungle Boy go for the double team on Omega, which leads to Page then coming on in, and he hits a flurry of suplexes, and then he hits a kick on to Jungle Boy. Omega comes on in after the commercial, hits a flurry of Snapdragons. Then the Elite try to take the 2-on-1 advantage on Luchasaurus, which Luchasaurus is able to counter. And then Luchasaurus throws Marco at Kenny on the outside. And then that led to a 2 count on Hangman. Luchasaurus ended up getting a 2 count on Hangman. Then Hangman ended up going back and he ended up powerbombing the Jungle Boy onto Luchasaurus, and then Kenny ended up hitting a dive. Then we had Hangman Page back in the ring with the powerbomb for the 2 count on Jungle Boy, and then after that kick out from Jungle Boy, it set up the Buckshot V-Trigger combination between Omega and Page onto Jungle Boy for the win. Very solid match. This match was just a really solid match. It wasn't the best tag team titles match. It wasn't the worst. It was just a solid match all around. The Jurassic Express guys, I want to see them be champions, but I just don't get that vibe from them right now. Like, I feel like the Dark Order should be champions right now. I feel like the FTR guys should be champions. The Young Bucks, they have the championship vibe to them. But when I think of the Jurassic Express, I just can't picture them with the tag team championships just yet. They don't feel important enough just yet. I don't know what it is. I love Jungle Boy. I love Luchasaurus. I love Marco Stunt. But right now, I don't think it's the right time for them. Next, we had the Butcher and the Blade interviewed, asked who their favorite tag team was. They said the Road Warriors. Then we go back into the ring. Obviously, Tag Team Appreciation Night. What better tag team to have in the ring than Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard with FTR, with the Rock and Roll Express, and with the Young Bucks. Matt started off saying the Rock and Roll Express are the original Young Bucks, and they brought them here tonight to say thank you. Dax takes the mic. He says, I'm a big mark for these teams. I'm a big mark for the Legends. He says, because of them, they get to make a living. He's making a living because of what they did in the greatest sport in the world, pro wrestling. He said, for 7.5 years, I've been able to have fun. I've been able to have a good time. And I've been able to be out on the road with Cash. And you've given my family, I've been able to give my family the life they have because of what you did, the artwork you laid out. Then Ricky ends up taking the mic. He says he watches AEW every week. He says that he's never seen as much chemistry in the ring than what Arn and Tully had. But the Young Bucks are now the top tag team of their generation. Arn says the Young Bucks took tag team wrestling into a different stratosphere. Arn says that FTR is the best team. Arn takes the mic now. He says FTR is who he thinks is the best team in the world. Then Tully snatched the mic away from everybody. He says, you know what? I don't want to start something. You guys don't want to start something that you can't finish. Tully says, you know why Tom Brady is the best quarterback? It's because he has all the Super Bowl rings. As of tonight, neither of you have a title. He says, Let's tell everybody how great we are. Let's pat ourselves on the back. And then he looks at Arn Anderson. He says, you know what? I've had a problem with you since last year. You can't, since I think he said Labor Day. No, this specific day. But he said, I've had a problem with you last year since you jumped in with Cody. Arn says, you know what? I'm a grown man, and I don't ever remember asking for your permission. And then that leads into a punch man thrown onto one of the Rock and Roll Express guys. And Dax Harwood's out there selling a knee injury that obviously he had last week. Then we have FTR as the Young Bucks are trying to separate them. The FTR guys attack the Rock and Roll Express from behind. And then we have Kenny Omega and Hangman Page come on down to check on the Rock and Roll Express with the Young Bucks. They're just checking up on them as the FTR guys walk out. Then you have just Hangman sitting there like, why? Why'd you do that? All right, next we have Mike Chioda. He was interviewed. I forget. I don't even know who interviewed him. I think it was that fool Alex Marvez. But he was being interviewed. He ended up getting interrupted by Chris Jericho. Jericho came out there saying, tonight you better do the right thing. Chioda said, I'm going to do exactly what I came here to do. I'm going to call it right down the middle. Jericho says, listen, I'll be able to get you your job back, but this time it's going to be in AEW if you do the right thing. So kind of showing it that he's able to pull strings around at AEW to get what he wants. So I think Chioda's already going to be. I think he probably is signed by now. But Jericho playing into the Chioda got fired thing after 31 years. Next we had Hikaru Shida versus Hannah Monroe. Don't know much about Hannah Monroe. Wasn't able to mark out for it. I don't know much about her. I'm sorry. One point she almost won the match though. She almost hit a roll-up pin for the win, but the match went 3 minutes and Shida ended up getting a submission onto Hannah Monroe. It was 3 minutes. Got Shida the win she needed. Enhancement talent at most. I think this is probably the worst time to be doing this with the women's division, just because of how much criticism is going around about them having the women's tournament on YouTube. It's a 2-hour show. They're not going to be able to fit 45 minutes of a women's tournament without the big names being there on a Dynamite show. They're just not going to be able to fit all that in. So I understand why it is on their own YouTube channel. I think it's probably the best right now until they get a second show, that they could obviously get more. They could probably put maybe 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there for the women, on both shows. But without their major names there, you're not going to get a long match, especially when someone like Hannah Monroe is not signed. She doesn't have an established name. You're not going to get those long sort of matches here. And I think that's people are really pinning, AEW just, they don't care about the women's division. They do. They just don't have any other names. Where's Bea Priestley? She's overseas. Where's Rhea? She's overseas. I mean, sure, they got Nyla there, but Nyla and Cheetah right now is going to be the match at All Out. So why would Nyla do that? Penelope and Cheetah, we've already gone through that match. We've already seen Penelope. Who else do we realistically have? Britt Baker, sure. Big Swole, she's on a path with Britt Baker. She's not going to be getting a championship match, because after Britt Baker, she's going to get that championship match. There's just really not much they can do right now in terms of the women's division, just because of the lack of hands they have on deck. And it sucks. It really does. But here you gotta give them longer than 2 minutes. I understand Hannah Monroe's there to enhance Shida and Shida's title run, but you gotta give them more than 2 minutes. You gotta give them at least 7 to 8 minutes here, just because of how negative the reaction's been to the women's division. Anna Jay, you could see her possibly. I think she could easily have stepped into a position here and had maybe a 10, 12-minute match. You could have seen Tana Arconti. There's options. Nicole Savoy, I think she could easily fit into one of Shida's matches in the future. But right now, they lack the established names, and they have the tournament going on. So really, there's not much else to do on Dynamite except have enhancement matches because they just don't have the names to do it right now. Next, we have Lance Archer in the back. He says, "Did you tell him, Jake?" Jake says, "No, I haven't told him yet." He rips off Jake's shirt, and on the back of Jake, it says, "Everybody dies," playing off the gimmick of Lance Archer. Then we get to the granddaddy one. We get to Orange Cassidy Jericho Part 2. I think everybody was excited for this one. I think everybody wanted to see Part 2. And one thing is, Jericho's jacket gets more and more orange each week. That's just hilarious. We start here with Cassidy, puts the hands in the pockets. Then he goes crazy, starts punching Jericho. Definitely not the chill version of Orange Cassidy that we're used to seeing with Cassidy. Just throwing Jericho around early. Cassidy even goes up, hits a trust fall onto Jericho. And then he followed that up with a jumping top rope DDT. OC Orange Cassidy goes for the Superman punch into a kick to the face by Jericho. Jericho counters it. Jericho then slows the pace down, tries to make the match more physical, more his style. Comes back from commercial. Jericho has all the momentum. Then we hit the part of the match where it starts switching ways. We have Cassidy start doing the lazy chops onto Jericho. Kind of to lure Jericho and think, you know what, he's starting not to take this as serious as what I thought he might. So he lured him in there with the weak chops. And Jericho then goes into a super kick. Orange Cassidy hits a super kick and then a clothesline. Obviously catching Jericho off guard. Then he goes to the top rope, hits a crossbody. Then he hits a leg drag, trying to target the knee of Jericho. Once again, does another leg drag. He goes for a move off the top ropes, but it gets converted into the walls by Jericho. OC then converts it into a small package for a 2 count. Once again, we have Cassidy focusing on the knee, just trying to get any advantage he can on Jericho. But then out of nowhere, we have Jericho get out of it, tries to lift Cassidy, which gets countered, but then he ends up hitting the code breaker. Cassidy kicks out of the code breaker. Jericho then goes to grab his bat, his boy Floyd, the little metal bat. He says, Chioda, turn around. That's what he was talking about earlier. When I tell you to do the right thing, you do the right thing. Tells Chioda to turn around. Chioda turns around, but he turns back around right before he smacks Cassidy with it, rips it from him. Chioda doesn't let him use the bat. Cassidy almost hits the roll-up for the win. Jericho kicks out. Cassidy follows that up with a Falcon Arrow for a 2 count. Then Orange Cassidy hits a Superman punch. I thought it was over here. It wasn't. The Inner Circle comes on out to attack the best friends who are watching on their boy, Orange Cassidy. They come out to, you have Santana and Ortiz out there to attack both best friends, Trent and Chuck. And you see Jake Hager come on in the ring. Hager slides in the ring. He attacks Cassidy while Chioda was turned around. Jericho ends up going for the pin, ends up getting a 2 count off of that. Then they are both on their knees trading punches. Jericho goes for a Judas effect. Once they do get back, he misses it. And then we have Orange Cassidy rolling up Jericho into the mousetrap for the 1, 2, 3. Orange Cassidy picks up the Sly victory over Chris Jericho. I told you we're going to be in for Cassidy Jericho Part 3. Jericho is not, next week is going to be really good. Jericho is going to be upset. Jericho is going to be livid that he lost Orange Cassidy. So we're going to be next week. We're going to start seeing the seeds be planted for Orange Cassidy Jericho Part 3 at All Out. I can't wait for that. I think that'll be a really good match. I think that's going to be the best of their matches. It'll be really interesting to see what they do at All Out. But anyways, very solid show up and down for AEW. The women's tag team tournament was decent this week. You got to see a lot of names that I think we as fans want to see brought in. Obviously, Ivelisse and Diamante are some people that we've already been vouching for, trying to convince them to bring them in. Tainara Conti, I think we all want to see her brought in just for her judo style. But I think you added some names this week with Rachel Ellering and then Nicole Savoy. I think those would also be 2 really good pickups for them. But with that being said, it's been your role model of the IWC Gamers Goon. And for now, I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.